Hey everyone, welcome to another Clean Machine Live. I'm Geoff Palmer, the CEO and founder of Clean Machine, and I am 60 years of age. I'll be turning 61 next month. Still fit and healthy, and that's what I want for you. So today we're actually going to be coming to a close on 2023, and I'd like to look back and recap at some of the amazing studies that came out in 2023. We had a whole lot of really good research. Finally, we have many more studies, including those on a plant-based lifestyle, those in an omnivore lifestyle, those who are vegetarian, those who are Mediterranean diet, all the different diets are now being included in research. So we can really take a look at what we're eating and how it's impacting us and take a look at some of these studies. I have picked out my top 10 favorite studies that I've covered this year, and I hope you like them. So some of these studies are going to cover, is plant protein as effective at building muscle? And what about recovery? Or is plant protein actually better than animal protein? That's going to be an interesting one. How about how important it is to exercise, and how much exercise do we really need to do to make a difference in our overall health outcomes? What happens when we swap out meat for plant foods? This was called the SWAP study. And does D3 affect brain health? And wow, does it affect brain health? This was a breakthrough study and probably one of the most important studies on the impact of brain health that I've seen this year. And then finally, is fiber important for brain development? And does omega-3 ALA effectively convert to DHA? This was a big one because, look, when I turned plant-based or vegan, one of the very first things people say is, where'd you get your protein? Well, we now know that all essential amino acids actually come and are only made by plants and some microbes, but in our food supply, all of them are made by plants. So animals don't make any essential amino acids. It's interesting. There are two essential fatty acids, omega-3 ALA, which comes from plants, and omega-6 LA, which also comes from plants. So all of the essential nutrients, essential fats, and essential amino acids are made by plants. We're just feeding them to an animal and killing the animal and taking those, and we're getting secondhand. But a lot of people still to this day, and I'm talking academics and teachers and professors at the university level, are still teaching this. Doctors are still teaching this. There's just this prevalent idea until this year changes everything. But we'll get to that at the end of this. Let's start with one of the first studies. But before we get started, let's go ahead and do our FDA disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only, is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease. Okay, let's go to study number 1. All right, and the title of the study, as you see on the screen, the link is down below in the green. If you want to copy and paste, you can just pause the video and copy and paste, or simply type in the title of the study, and it should be able to pull up the study too as well. Okay, so this is an August 2023 study. All of these were 2023 studies, all 10 of them. So this study is a meta-analysis, means it looked at a lot of different studies. Instead of, a lot of people say, oh, Geoff, that's a study that you just cherry-picked because it favors your bias of being plant-based. That's why I like meta-analysis, and a lot of the studies that I'm talking about are actual meta-analysis, where they look at a broad range of studies and take the best studies, the ones that were done properly, and the ones that were done and showed an effective result, and they accumulate those to see if there's a real pattern there. That's why I like them. So this was a meta-analysis of vegetarian and vegan diets and blood lipids compared to omnivorous diets. So what did they find? I'm going to quote these results exactly verbatim from the study so that when you hear me say them, you'll know they're word for word in the study. So the results: compared to the omnivorous diet group, the vegetarian or vegan diet group experienced reduced levels of total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and ApoB levels and showed actually a 14% reduction in ApoB, which is a key indicator, a key blood marker for atherosclerosis. This is the development of plaques in your arteries. These are blockages to your heart, to your brain for dementia, Alzheimer's disease, to your genitals for erectile dysfunction. So clogging up the arteries, clogging up the plumbing, these are key markers. Total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and ApoB. Okay, conclusions. Consumption of a vegetarian and vegan versus omnivorous diets reduces concentrations of total cholesterol, LDL-C, and ApoB. This effect can potentially reduce atherogenic, that's creating those clots, atherogenic burden, and therefore the risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, what I liked about this was a meta-analysis of 30 different studies, and the effects were similar across all studies, regardless of the 7 different variables that they looked at. They looked at age, they looked at gender, they looked at ethnicity, and it was the same across all. It was significant difference in vegan and vegetarian diets compared to omnivores, and it was consistent regardless of their demographic, regardless of their age, their gender, what nationality they were, what type of diets they were, did not matter. It was consistent across all 30 different studies. So that makes it a really positive and powerful research. So let's go on to number 2. Okay, this one is vegan and omnivorous high protein diets support comparable daily myofibrillar protein synthesis rates and skeletal muscle hypertrophy in young adults. Okay, so this study did actually a high amount of protein. Let me go over some of the analytics in here. So they looked at 22 healthy young adults. Now, this is an interesting point because they're looking at young adults who have a better response to protein and exercise. So you're going to get a little bit more pronounced results from that. So they did 10 weeks of progressive resistance training. That means they're increasing the weight, progressive resistance training, for 5 days a week. So this is the typical type of training. It's over a long period of time, 10 weeks. It's 5 days a week of training, and they use 2 grams per kilogram of protein per day. So this is really high, actually. Most of the research shows that you can accomplish full muscle protein synthesis or maximize your muscle growth at about 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, up to 1.8 for vegans and vegetarians. Seeing the vegans and vegetarians, because of the plant protein that we're consuming, maybe a little bit lower in leucine, a key trigger for muscle growth. So just by either adding BCAAs or adding a bit more protein, so going from 1.6 for animal-based diets, 1.8 per grams per kilogram of protein for that. But this one actually used 2 grams. I think what they were trying to accomplish is to say, well, what if they clearly are getting sufficient amounts of protein and sufficient all of the amounts of essential amino acids? Because remember, if plant protein is lower in leucines, for example, one of the 3 branch chain amino acids, all you have to do is raise the amount of total protein intake, and now the leucine is the same as animal protein. So there's no difference there. Just because they're gram for gram different doesn't mean you can't change the amount of protein that you intake and cover that difference, so where there's no difference. Well, okay, so that was pretty cool, but what were the results? Okay, the results, and I'm going to quote this. Resistance training increased lean mass in both groups. Now, here's the cool part of this study. The omnis, those on an omnivorous diet, increased 2.6 pounds, and those on the vegetarian diet, 3.1 pounds of muscle. So the exact same amount of 2 grams per kilogram of protein. Same amount of protein, same workouts, same duration, same genders, male and female. So everything the same. The veg group got about 30% greater muscle protein synthesis activation. So this is a pretty important study because it's one of the few that's actually, many studies have shown that there's pretty much equal amounts. Now, this may be an aberration study because it doesn't fit with most of the other studies saying they're about the same. But because they bumped up the protein to 2 grams, it could have neutralized one of those things and added that extra protein that maybe had been missing from a plant-based diet. So it could have been the 2 grams was the key factor to tease out and actually finally show the difference between that. And of course, getting that amount of leucine up to a level to maximize most muscle protein synthesis could be very important. So that was a really cool study. Let's go on to study number 3. I'll put that up on the screen here. So this is a device-measured physical activity, sedentary time, and risk of all-cause mortality. So the study is actually really looking at how profound is exercise on your life and your health expectancies, your overall mortality. So what they looked at in this study, it was 4 prospective cohort studies. So they combined the information from 4 different studies. And what's great about this one is it was a 13-year study, so a really long study, looking at a lot of people, almost 12,000 participants. And it was a good gender split too, about 50-50 men and women. And it was in 3 different countries, Norway, Sweden, and the USA. So looked at that different dietary habits, long 13-year study, 12,000 people. This is a good way to get some really good analysis in the study. So let's take a look at the conclusions. They said sedentary time was associated with higher mortality risk, but only in individuals accumulating less than 22 minutes of moderate to very active exercise per day. 22 minutes reduced or eliminated the negative effects of a sedentary lifestyle. Just 22 minutes of exercise per day. That's how powerful and how important exercise is for you. That's an amazing study. So moderate to vigorous exercise was associated with up to a 55% lower mortality risk across the sedentary time spectrum. So the more you were sedentary, the more negative effect it had on your health and risk for mortality. But when you added 22 minutes of exercise, it totally negated how much sedentary time you had. Now, I'm not suggesting that you can just sit on the couch for the rest of your life if you're just exercising 22 minutes a day. Don't take that study this way. But what it is saying is that's how powerful at neutralizing the effects of a sedentary lifestyle, completely eliminating the negative effects of it. 55% lower mortality risk, regardless of how much sedentary time you had as a person. That was a huge study. All right, let's go on to number 4. This is a vitamin D supplementation and incidence of dementia. Now, this is one of the biggest studies as far as the results have seen that I've seen all year. And of course, dementia is a horrible thing. Nobody wants to lose their mental faculties as we age. See, they measured several different things, and let's dive into the study real quick. So this is a quote from the study. We prospectively explored associations between vitamin D supplementation and incident dementia in 12,388 dementia-free persons and for over 10 years. Okay, so the significant findings. 75% of those who had dementia had no exposure to vitamin D, and 40% after all adjustments were made. So here's the results. Across all formulations, vitamin D exposure, meaning you taking vitamin D as a supplement, was associated with significantly longer dementia-free survival and lower dementia incidence rate than no exposure, taking no vitamin D. The hazard ratio was 0.60. That means a 40% reduced risk or incidence of dementia, 40% less dementia simply by taking vitamin D supplement. It was a huge study. It was long-term study and amazing significant results, 40% lower dementia just by simply taking a vitamin D supplement. Folks, don't mess with your brain health. Take vitamin D. We're living indoors. We're not getting sun exposure. We're just not. And even those consuming vitamin D through animal products, you say, well, I don't need to take vitamin D. I eat animal products. Well, this was all measuring all those people. It's the only difference was they weren't consuming a supplement. And remember, this is measuring over 12,000 people. So clearly not 12,000 vegans, just 12,000 people. And with 1 or 2% of the population being vegan, that means 98% of them were consuming animal products and still were getting dementia. Wow. Now, one of the other point outs in the study was there was a significantly greater risk for dementia in women. It's a 12% higher in female. So if you're a female, if you're a woman, please consider, talk with your doctor and consider taking a vitamin D supplement for your brain health. You're even at higher risk just because of your gender. So vitamin D is known to participate in the clearance of amyloid beta aggregates, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. That's a direct quote from the study. Okay, let's go on to number 5. This study is called the comparison of the effects of pea protein and whey protein on the metabolic profile of soccer athletes, a randomized, double-blind crossover trial. Now, this is really cool because it's crossover, meaning the exact same people did both. And it's one of my favorites because you really can't say, oh, well, that group had some people in it that were better BMI or better age group or had, better health diet choices. This was crossover. That means this group took that and then crossed over and did with the other. And that group crossed over with the other. So the crossover studies are really great. It helps remove some of the variables that you would find in different populations, looking at just them separately. Okay, so what did they find? Now, this one's pretty interesting because they're looking at recovery, pea protein versus whey protein. All right. So we already see that other study, plant protein versus animal protein, actually yielded higher muscle protein synthesis with the plant proteins. This one's actually looking at muscle damage and recovery. So how much damage happens when you do a workout? This is looking at soccer players. So after they have a soccer match, really stressing, pounding each other, hitting each other, kicking the ball, stressing the muscles and stuff like this. What is their recovery period? How quickly are they recovered? And how much damage to the muscles is being done while they're doing that? Okay, so I'll quote from the study. A comparison of biochemical markers showed that the pea protein group had lower creatine kinase, which is an indicator of muscle damage in the post-game moment, and lower lactic acid, which is an indicator of muscle fatigue in the post-game moment, and lower ALT, which is an indicator of the body's ability to recover. All right. So all 3 of the things that they measured, whether it's muscle damage, muscle fatigue, or muscle recovery, all responded better to the pea protein than the whey protein. Now, this is important because if you're working out 5 days a week, you work out once, you're going to have some muscle damage. You're going to have some lactic acid buildup. That's that acid burn that you feel when your muscles start burning when you work out really hard. Well, if pea protein can actually lower that lactic acid, lower that muscle damage. Creatine kinase is an indicator that you've damaged the muscle tissue. That's when it's released. And then accelerate the recovery process. That means the next time you're in your gym, you have more strength because you're more fully recovered. You have less muscle damage. So you're not tearing down muscle even further as you're working out. So, quote, all these data suggest that short-term pea protein can reduce muscle damage, corroborating with the current literature. So they were looking at other studies and they were finding basically the same thing. Besides the soccer athletes, they found it in resistance training. They found it in other forms of athletics. It's consistent throughout the data that pea proteins actually helps with lowering muscle damage, lowering the fatigue buildup, and accelerating the recovery. All important for athletes, but for anybody who's trying to keep in good physical condition and good health. Okay, let's go on to number 6. This one was probably one of the most important ones for women, mothers, parents, and pregnancy, and especially child development. When I read the study, it broke my heart because it's such a simple thing just to include more plants in your diet. Okay, so let's read the study title itself. This is July 2023. It came out this summer. Maternal dietary fiber intake during pregnancy and child development. And why it's such a heartbreaker is because Americans are only consuming about 10 to 15 grams of fiber. Fiber only exists in plants. It means basically that human beings in America are simply not eating enough plant foods. They're not getting fiber. And you're like, fiber, so what? For digestive health? No. Brain development. Let's take a dive into the study. So here's the results that just gave me a startling pause, because we're talking about people giving birth to a child, all that excitement that they feel. And because they simply didn't eat enough plants, you could slow the brain development of that infant, of that child. That's heartbreaking. That's why I think the study is so important, why I'm talking about it. Okay, let's directly quote from the study. The lowest intakes of dietary fiber during pregnancy was associated with a 51% increased risk of delayed communication and 45% increased risk of delayed fine motor skills, as well as delayed development in problem solving and social skills. Simply by the amount of fiber, the amount of plants that the mother consumed while she was pregnant, 51% increased delayed communication. That is brain development. That is your child's ability to think, to process, to have motor skills, to have communication skills, development, problem-solving skills, and even social skills. Oh my God. That's so sad, because all we have to do is simply eat more plants and have better, smarter, more able, more brain-developed children. It's that simple. 51%. I mean, this is not insignificant. This isn't, it's a 3 to 5% difference. So what? I'll just continue eating the same thing. No, 51% brain development difference for a child. Please do not do that to our children. Simply eat more plant foods. It's that easy. That's why this study was so important. Okay, number 7. Now, when I hear about people say, okay, all that fruit you eat is going to cause diabetes. I'm like, okay, I did a great study and a great video. Check out my videos online at YouTube online, and you can see more of it, that high fruit consumption actually lowers your risk by up to 40% of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, not type 1. Okay, but what does exacerbate type 2 diabetes? What we now know across pretty much all of the scientific information, we're finally getting to the place where, yes, we understand fat, and specifically saturated fat, is the main culprit for the development of dietary-induced type 2 diabetes. This study really points it out in big time terms. October 2023 study, red meat intake and the risk of type 2 diabetes in a prospective cohort study of United States females and males. All right, let's dive into this study. What I really like about this study is it was huge. 216,000, over 216,000 participants, and it was long. It looked at long term. It's really important the size of the study, how many people are involved in it, because the greater the number, the greater those little aberrations won't influence the total numbers. And the greater the time that you do it will tease out some of the things that might be aberrations too as well. The time follow-up, over almost 5.5 million person years. That's the total amount of years by all the subjects covered at that time. 5.5 million life years of person years. Wow. Okay. Huge study. Lots of time under that. What were the results? Intakes of, this is a quote from the study, intakes of total processed and unprocessed red meat were positively and approximately linearly. That means the more you consumed, the more the higher the risk for it. Linearly associated with higher risks of type 2 diabetes. Now, catch this. Comparing the highest to the lowest quintiles, that means divided into 5 parts. Taking the highest, compare it to the lowest, and this is what they found. Hazard ratios were 62% for total red meat, 51% for red meat, and 40% for unprocessed red meat. So they said, oh my God, 62% increased risk for diabetes based on the higher amounts of red meat. The higher you get, the higher, linearly, the higher risk for type 2 diabetes. There's a direct correlation here between the amount of red meat that you eat and the risk for type 2 diabetes. Remember, red meat generally high in saturated fat too as well. And that's a contributing factor, both the protein on insulin impact as well as the saturated fat, which gums up the inside of the cells and prevents the cells from absorbing anything. That is insulin resistance. It says, I've got too much fat, too much energy in the cell. I can't take in any more energy. Let's close down the insulin receptor sites. And now insulin has nowhere to dock and can't get the sugar in it. And that sugar just circulates in the system because it can't get in the cells where it should be because the cells are clogged up with fat, specifically saturated fat. Okay, but let's look at their approach then to it. The percentage lower risk of type 2 diabetes was with substituting 1 serving per day of nuts and legumes for total red meat. So if you took out the red meat and replaced it with beans and nuts, what was the difference in type 2 diabetes? 30% reduced risk for type 2 diabetes. And with processed red meat, if you took out that 1 processed red meat, 1 meal per day, and replaced it with beans and nuts, 41% reduced risk. 1 meal, 1 per day. Oh my God. If somebody told you you could reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes by 41% by changing 1 meal, why would you not do that? It's crazy how little the effect of switching meat for plants. how powerful, how pronounced the effects of swapping out just a single meal per day. Wow. Okay, that's study number 8. November 2023 study. So this one was even more recent. This is called the SWAP study, SWAP study. You can type in SWAP study and you'll find it. It got widely circulated because it was really, really amazing. It's substitution of animal-based with plant-based foods on cardiometabolic health and all-cause mortality. A systematic review and meta-analysis of prospective studies. All right, once again, this is a meta-analysis looking at lots of different studies. So in total, there were 36 publications based on 24 cohort studies that were included in this analysis. Now, the results. When substituting processed meat with nuts, there was a 27% reduction in all-cause mortality. When you substituted meat for whole grains, there was a 36% reduction in cardiovascular and CVD and all-cause mortality. I mean, these are huge numbers just by simply swapping out the animal proteins for the plant proteins. I'll read the conclusion of the study. Our findings indicate that a shift from animal-based proteins to plant-based foods is beneficially associated with cardiometabolic health and all-cause mortality, all causes of death, all the diseases combined. When you look at them, significant reduction simply by swapping out those foods. That's what I want for you. Look, this is not about us versus them. It's not about dogma. It's not about diets. It's about your health. It's about if I change something in my diet, how will it affect my health? Will I have less risk for a disease, a debilitating disease that could harm me, that could cripple me, that could kill me, that could make me not present to be available for my wife, for my kids, for my friends, for my loved ones, for my family? Is it going to hospitalize me and wipe out all my savings, my lifetime savings? Is it going to get me out of work because I can't work anymore because of disabilities? I don't want that for you. That's why I share this information. It's not about saying I'm right, you're wrong, or one diet is better than the other. It's about you and your health and how you get to live life. Do you want to live it relatively disease-free? Do you want to reduce your risks for having these horrible diseases? I do. I want that for you. I want you to live a life that's full right to the end. Go to 100, 120 and live strong, live happy, live disease-free. I don't want you to suffer for the last 10, 20, 30 years of your life. I don't want you to lose all your money that you worked hard for all your life because of your paying out disease and drugs and doctor visits and hospital visits and insurance companies. Don't throw all your money to them just because you simply don't change your diet. Change your diet because it will help you, not because of me, not because of what the research is saying, but the research is showing you. This is a gift for you to better make best choices for yourself. Okay, let's get into study number 9. The effect of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, on cardiovascular outcome in patients with diabetes. Again, another meta-analysis looking at a broad range of studies and of randomized controlled studies, RCTs, they're called. These are considered the gold standards for studies. So one is meta-analysis, looking at a lot of studies. This is not cherry picking a single study. It is researchers looking at a broad range of studies, making sure they're randomized control, solid gold standard studies. Okay, what did they find out? Now, this study was pivotal for me. And I'll explain. All right. The big issue with omega-3s being vegan is people say ALA does not convert to DHA. Now, why do they say that? They say that because when you get your blood work done and you pull blood out, you can measure how much ALA, EPA, and DHA are in your bloodstream. Now, when they measure that in vegans, they find very little DHA, very little conversion happening. So they used to think that was a bad thing. They used to think, oh, wait, ALA is not converting to DHA. Now we know different. So I was talking with Dr. Clapper and going back and forth with him. And he said, well, I got my blood work done. It's called the omega-3 index. You're actually getting blood work to see how much ALA is being converted to DHA. Well, we now know that about 1% of ALA converts to DHA in the blood. That was the problem. We were looking in the wrong place. And Dr. Michael Clapper says to me, and I love Michael. He's an amazing guy. He's super bright, super compassionate, dedicated vegan. Love, love, love Michael. That's why I thought it was so important to have these discussions with him as we were finding this research. He's like, well, I was saying, but wait a minute. What if the body doesn't want you to convert ALA to DHA in the blood? And he was like, well, why would that? Because he was taking more and more ALA from flax and chia, and his DHA was actually reducing. And I'm like, great. That's your body kicking out DHA from the bloodstream, from the red blood cells in this count. They're measuring whole red blood cells. Now, why would they want to do that? That's what makes this study so important. It answers that why. Why would the human body not want DHA in the bloodstream? Where does the blood go? To the heart and to the brain. Let's look at what this study says. Among them, EPA, but not EPA plus DHA, significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease in patients with diabetes. Quote, EPA alone significantly reduced the risk of cardiovascular disease in patients with diabetes, whereas the combination of EPA and DHA did not. So EPA was significantly reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease when it's consumed. ALA converts to EPA in the bloodstream readily. There's never been an issue with that. There's no argument. We have scientific proof of that. That's not arguable. ALA in plants converts to EPA rapidly and sufficiently. Not a problem. It's the DHA that they always say because it's not converting in the bloodstream. Now we know why the body will not and does not want to convert ALA all the way down to DHA in the bloodstream, because it blocks the positive effects of ALA and EPA at reducing cardiovascular disease. Quote, it has been shown that DHA increases LDL cholesterol concentrations, whereas EPA does the opposite, end quote. I'll go on to quote the study. Furthermore, unlike DHA, EPA can enhance the atherosclerotic protective function of HDL by inhibiting the oxidation of HDL particles. So EPA prevents the oxidation of HDL particles, and DHA increases the LDL concentrations. You do not want that if you're trying to prevent atherosclerosis. And this really concerns me because I see so many vegans out there taking a DHA supplement, and I'm like, no, the plants have it right. Your body doesn't want DHA in the bloodstream. The body converts ALA and EPA to DHA only in tissues, or mostly in tissues. Up to 50 times more of the ALA is converted down to DHA in the tissues, the specific tissues where it's needed, the brain, the liver, the fatty tissues, the places where that DHA is needed, so it doesn't end up circulating in the bloodstream, increasing LDL cholesterol and inhibiting the positive effects of ALA and EPA in the bloodstream. So one, we've been measuring ALA in the wrong place. It's not in the bloodstream where the conversion happens. Two, we've been making the assumption by taking DHA, it shows up more in the bloodstream. Well, of course it does. You just put it there. And that's the thing. And scaring vegans that they're not getting enough DHA for their brain. Oh my God, I'm not going to get enough DHA for my brain. Yes, you are. You have been along. Look, I've been vegan for almost 4 decades, 39 years in March. And in 39 years, I have not consumed a single milligram of EPA, of DHA in a supplement form. None. Now, if it were the case that I would have to consume DHA, my brain would be dead by now, but it would not be functioning at all, period. We mimicked animals. Animals have pre-converted DHA. Human beings do not. Vitamin A, the same way. Okay. Animals can take in beta carotene just like human beings can, and then convert it to vitamin A themselves. When they do that and we eat the animal, we're eating preformed vitamin A. Preformed vitamin A can be toxic and damaging to the liver and even cause death in extreme cases. So your body doesn't want preformed sources of DHA in the bloodstream or vitamin A in our bodies. It wants to take the precursors and only convert it on an as-need basis in the tissues, specific to the gender, specific to your age, specific to your dietary needs, specific to injury, bodily injury. Yes, the body regulates internally how much, where, and when that conversion happens. By taking preformed DHA, you mess up that whole endogenous regulation. You are turning DHA loose in the bloodstream at too high quantities, elevating LDL cholesterol, reducing or annihilating the benefits of good ALA, plant-based ALA and EPA in the bloodstream that could be cardiovascular. This study was pivotal for us to understand why we should not be consuming preformed sources of DHA in the blood. It does not belong there. That is why the human body, our own body, who knows best, only or majorly converts it. 99% of the conversion rate happens in tissues, not the bloodstream. Okay, I don't want to belabor this, but this is the last study. Study number 10. And this one was the study that changed everything as far as omega-3s. Blood and tissue DHA turnover rates from ahi flour are not different from DHA ethyl ester oil in diet switch mouse model. All right, let's talk about what this study was. One, it was interesting that ahi flour was used in the study, flax was also used in the study, and fish oil DHA, preformed DHA, was used in the study. They found that up to 50 times more ALA was being converted in tissues than was converted in the bloodstream. With that previous study, we know why the body wants to do it that way. Let's do right by the body. Let's not override the body's intentions. Way more DHA is being converted than we need. We can actually take that DHA and store it in fat tissues. We found that over 20 years worth of stored DHA can be in our body at any given time. So not only are we good at turning it into DHA when we need it, we're good at storing DHA. So we're not even needing to consume DHA at all if we're consuming sufficient amounts of ALA and particularly SDA for those who have some genetic variation. Now, why did I say that? All right. So there are stepping processes to go from ALA to SDA, then ETA, then EPA, then DPA, and finally at the very bottom, DHA. So that whole process is regulated by enzymes. One enzyme converts that one enzyme converts that one, elongases, desaturases, delta 6, delta 5, all these different enzymes specifically. Now, our genes will find out, hey, how much of that one do we need? We need that one. Okay, turn on the gene that produces that enzyme and it'll convert it down. This is how the body endogenously, inside our body, regulates exactly how much of each one of the 6 different forms that our body needs. Now, each one of those different 6 forms can actually be broken down into metabolites, and those specific metabolites have different health benefits and functions. So when we're skipping down to DHA, we're missing all 5 preforms of it. If you take DHA, you are not getting ALA, SDA, ETA, EPA, or DPA. You cannot get those from DHA because it's already all the way down converted, and there is no retro conversion. There is no back converting. Once it's converted all the way down to DHA, that's it. That's all you get is DHA. Now, it's like converting all your dollar bills down to pennies. Why would you do that? If you need a penny, well, then convert some down to pennies. But don't convert all your quarters, dimes, and nickels all the way down to pennies. So the body does that too. It grabs ALA and stores it in the body, fat tissues, and can hold it there for up to a year. But how quickly can that ALA be converted, or SDA in the case of ahi flour, which is the richest source of SDA? Well, some people have a genetic variation. A few percent of the people have a genetic variation that doesn't allow as much ALA to be converted down to SDA. It's called the rate limiting step. It's that first step. But if you get just past that first step, then almost everyone can get sufficient amounts of all of your omegas forms that you need, all 6 forms. So that first step is conversion to SDA. Now, that's what makes ahi flour so amazing. It's the richest source of SDA of any plant, non-GMO plant that we know of today. So that's what makes it so effective at being able to meet the demands for everyone. Not only that, some of it being pre-converted still has ALA, but it's got SDA too as well, and the highest amounts of any plant. This allows for easier conversion for almost everyone. And that's why if you don't know if you have that genetic flaw, that genetic difference, I should say, you shouldn't call it a flaw, you're born with that genetic variation, that ahi flour can do that. Also, quicker conversion rates because of the SDA is pre-converted there. Now, there may be a place if someone with an advanced disease state that is deplete of omega-3s, that there may be a place for therapeutic dosages of EPA or DHA, but you can still get them from plants, from algae, not plants. Actually, algae is a fungi, and the product, it's in a different kingdom than plants. So there might be still a place for it on a therapeutic level for people in extreme cases, but for the vast majority of people, especially those that are vegan, give your body a good source of ALA and SDA, and you can ensure that your body is going to be able to produce and supply the omega-3s that you need for brain function, heart function, joints, healthy liver, all of the different functions that pull on polyunsaturated fatty acids. And remember, taking that DHA could actually elevate LDL cholesterol. I actually had a vegan, a long-time vegan that talked to me and said, I was having the same trouble. I was going to my doctor and I'm like, but I've been vegan. I'm only eating plants. Why is my LDL cholesterol? And they said, well, what are you taking supplement wise? He said, I'm taking, a vegan DHA supplement from algae. I said, well, try stopping that. And sure enough, as soon as he stopped taking the algae DHA supplement, his LDL levels dropped immediately. And he had been struggling with that. Why am I having high LDL as a vegan? It's because he was taking preformed DHA, which can trigger the body to produce LDL cholesterol in the bloodstream. The science is there. That's why I share this with you, because I know so many vegans out there are consuming preformed DHA from algae thinking, oh, I must take it for brain health, or I got to take it because it's like animal products. No, stop being like animal products. Animal products have it wrong. Plants have it right. You do not need that based on the research. And as a matter of fact, DHA may actually be setting you back, maybe interfering with prevention of cardiovascular disease. We see that in that study. I share this information because I want the best health for you. And I want to give you this information so that you can make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. Give them this information. Please share this video if you think it's important. I want to get this information out to more people. Information is power, power to make better decisions based on what you know. Science is not a foolproof thing. It does not have all the answers. Remember, science says that you had to take DHA, and they were wrong. Now we know, because we have better science to replace it. And that's why I want to share the most recent research. All of these 10 studies were from 2023. That's why I'm sharing them with you. This is the most recent, most powerful research that you can actually apply and make a difference in your health, in dementia, in muscle gains, in your child, your offspring, their brain development. These are really important. And every single one of them is showing how plants have it right. Consuming a whole food, high plant-based diet with the help of proper supplementation, you can live a full life, a healthy life. No guarantees in life. You can still get cancer. You can still have heart attacks. There are lots of other things that can cause that. But why not give yourself, I used to say this about nutrition. If you're going to play the Russian roulette of life, how many bullets do you want in the chamber? Right? And to me, that's what this science can do, is give me enough information so that I reduce the amount of bullets in the chamber. It's not going to take them all away, because there's always other things out there. There's pollution in the air, there's pollution in the water, there's exposure to radiation. There's so many different things. There's stress levels. There's so many different things. Sleep, water quality, so many things that contribute to our health. But why not take the most bullets out of the gun as possible and give yourself a better chance at a healthier life, a longer life? Look, if I can be 61, be in the best shape of my life, be healthy, clear skin, that's what I want for you. I want you to enjoy life. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll do it again next year at the end of the year. And I'll always keep sharing the best information that I find to help you make the best decisions for your health, for you and your family. Live long and prosper. Thanks for watching.